All right, this is a rare sight. We are live after a game. Wasn't always fun to watch, but we're back in the win column, Jordan. Um, I'll say this: if we had this game plan on Monday, I think we would have won on Monday.
Yeah, we were just a little more concise. We played football a little less bad than the other team today. It was
I
nice to
actually,
see.
yeah, I would say, well, the first half was one of the sloppiest, most disorganized I've ever seen. In hindsight, I think most of it was special teams, so it gives us a chance to rail on Danny Crossman a little bit more. Um, we said at the end of last year, he got to go.
Yeah, but
So
it's so that's the biggest problem to me, and I don't want this to be a killing ourselves episode because there is some positive to talk about, and I think the negative we could talk about throughout the week, and I'd like to really talk about some good highlights of the game today.
mhm.
But I think that the problem I have, especially with our team early in the year, the problems that we have that you saw today, Julian Hill, Liam Eichenberg, Danny Crossman, backup quarterback, things like that, are things that should have been handled in the offseason. And I feel like the Cater Kohu, I feel like some of the same issues that we see today are issues that we identified as the major issues. So it's almost like we didn't progress, and we're just watching a continuation of last year's team.
Yep. I will say this at least for Kohu and Eichenberg, they each had a really bad play, but they did recover, and I think they played not well, but they were functional, which is more than we've had most of the year. Julian Hill and Durham Smythe, though, continue to be unplayable. Um, I don't know if you saw this. During the week, they actually came out and said they weren't using Jonnu Smith a lot because of how many people were messing up, so they didn't have the packages for him. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan. His whole career, has he not been like a really good inline blocking tight end?
Yeah, and
No.
maybe we don't follow those teams as closely, so we don't know. But that's definitely been the perception on them.
Yeah. So that quote boggled my mind. But Jordan, something you and I have talked about, and I've railed everywhere. When you have a backup quarterback, run the ball, get the tight end involved. We ran the ball, and we got Jonnu Smith involved, and it made a difference. Uh, to go with what you were saying about the same things, the bigger issue to me is yes, there are some of the same issues, but it's not the lesser players that we said we had to fix. It's stuff like Jalen Waddle dropping easy passes still, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle not getting open. I'm not gonna rail on OBJ too much because it was his first game back, but
Was it?
well,
I didn't
he was
notice.
there, he was dressed. I think it said he had 2 targets. I just remember the one that was an interception.
Yeah.
But either way, it was an easier game plan. With Huntley, I was getting mad during the game because I felt people talked me into thinking he was a great backup, and but he got better as the game went on, and I think he looks like a guy who's been with the team for 2 weeks. So I'm giving Huntley some grace,
I think he's
but
back up in a Lamar Jackson built system when Lamar Jackson's out, and you need somebody to replicate what he does. I think when you're replacing a guy like Tua, especially in Mike McDaniel's offense, you're asking a quarterback to do a very specific skill set that there aren't many guys on the planet Earth that can do that skill set.
yeah,
When it's specific to building an offense around Tua, which is a very timing based offense. So I think that what we saw today is a lot of the plays that work were just simple run plays, simple pass concepts. And I think when we watch all 22, we'll see a lot of that. The biggest thing for me, and there were two. Number one, and the announcers emphasized this, and it felt to me like the guys calling the game today were fans of the list because they talked about multiple times how fast we got in the plays. And
yes,
we were getting to the line between 20 and 18 seconds, which gave guys to motion. And then we were getting plays off with about 7 seconds left instead of falling down to one. So that
yeah,
was a big thing. The other thing, when we looked at box scores early in the year, and the box score doesn't tell the whole story, but the simple thing I keep saying with Tua out is that we need to run the ball more than we throw the ball. The run
yes,
attempt shouldn't be around 20 to 25. Today, we ran the ball 41 times. If you don't want to count the Jake Bailey bobbled snap that counts as a run, it was 40 rushes and 31 pass attempts. I think in a 70 play game. I think that's closer to where we need to be, even 45-25. But
Yeah.
I was very happy with the run pass split. I mean, we saw towards the end of the game how once we started running the ball, it was very, very beneficial for us. So running the ball and Jalen Wright, kudos to him. I'm sure that he got the game ball, if not wasn't one of the top guys. Jalen Wright had a great day, a little bit of a coming out party. And we saw kind of building on what we saw him do in limited reps the last couple weeks.
Yeah. And even before, and one negative, Devin Etienne got a concussion. Saw it right away. As soon as his head hit, you could tell it was going to be a concussion. He wasn't playing well even before getting hurt. He was trying to bounce everything to the outside, wasn't seeing the lanes, going down first contact. Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert added a lot more downfield running, a little bit more authority, a little bit more decisiveness, and that was a big difference. And Alec Ingold, for the first time this year, also looked like the Alec Ingold we're used to. He was also, I would say, unplayable the first couple weeks. And
who would have thought that Alec Ingold would have the only touchdown of today's game?
I wouldn't have thought that. I don't think anybody did, but credit to him. He came out and he had a great game. One of the best games I remember him having. He was very decisive with his blocking. I don't really remember him missing stuff. Really not much to talk about the offense. Like I said, it's just simpler. I think you're going to see a better team after the bye because that'll mean Huntley's been with the team for a month. So I think you're going to be able to do a little bit more.
Now on the Tua front, do you think Huntley comes out, starts Indy, and then Tua's back against the Cardinals? Or do you think so really it's figuring Huntley out for 1 week and then figuring out what to do when Tua's back? I assume, if it were me, I assume Tua would be taking a lot of the snaps during the bye week and would be essentially back. And then Huntley would just end up playing in the game in whatever that limited package is. But you can afford to lose the Colts game if it means getting this offense right going into the Arizona game and the stretch run the rest of the season. Winning the Colts game would just be gravy.
Yeah, ideally, if we can be 3-3 going into Arizona, that'd be best. It wouldn't be season ending, but you had to start today and you had to win today. And I think my thought process hope is this gets some people the mojo back. And I think you saw a lot of it. I think it was good for Mike McDaniel, who I've been very critical of. You were at the game on Monday, so you didn't hear how the announcers were just ripping McDaniel to shreds on Monday because
I didn't need to hear it because every single one of us was doing it in the crowd.
Well, Tennessee was giving us the middle of the field, and we were not taking. So I am happy to see growth from McDaniel.
But that's a couple weeks in a row that's happened.
Yes, it is. I will again say Seattle was more Skyler just being bad, which goes on Greer and McDaniel that you were comfortable with Skyler as your main backup.
Agreed.
There's no defending that. But thanks, buddy. Food got here, so it was just being brought in. But I think that's a big thing. You just want to see growth because the thing I've said all week is it's not that we're losing. It's how we're losing. We are making things more difficult for us. And you just don't do it. Like Monday, Mason Rudolph came into the game. What did Tennessee do? We're going to run it. We're going to give them easy passes. And we didn't do that. And even today, I still had a bit of a complaint because when stuff starts breaking down a little bit, we don't have the easy dump off option. So sometimes
not only that, but you say it's how we're losing. We didn't win the prettiest today.
No.
So it's not like those things that you're talking about have gotten cleaned up.
No, but there's positives because they are still there, but they actually changed it. Like you said earlier, Jordan, we're trying to run a Tua offense with Huntley, which even if he was here all offseason is not his strength.
I agree.
But the thing I was constantly saying, our offensive line is not good. But here's a change they did. You know what they stopped doing? They stopped asking Robert Jones to pool every play. They took his responsibilities away. So we went from Robert Jones being by far the worst player on offense that isn't Julian Hill or Durham Smythe to Robert Jones had a solid game, I thought.
There's no way Julian Hill makes it out of the bye week, huh?
I think he does just because we have Tanner Connor.
What about Rucci?
Well, no, I was going to say I would bring Rucci up, but I think they'd cut Tanner Connor because we don't use Tanner. So
yeah, but Julian Hill, I mean, after this week, I think he'll have, depending on what the stats were, I think he'll end up having the most penalties in the league.
He's up there. I saw a stat also just to go back to special teams. You know how we have I think I saw a stat. It was something like we had 44 penalties so far this year, and half of them are special teams penalties.
Crazy. Does Danny Cross make it through the bye week?
If we lost, I'd say no. I would still say he shouldn't. I would probably cut Duke Riley too, because guess who missed the block that led to the blocked punt?
Of course,
Duke Riley.
Yeah. And let's talk about something, Brett. I have been the biggest Duke Riley naysayer for a couple of years now, and it's at the point where it's got to stop.
Yeah, it's got to stop.
You have to send a message by cutting expendable guys who don't do the little things correctly.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to stop playing guys. You have to build the discipline of this team over the next couple of weeks, and that's bringing in guys that will do their job.
Yep, you got to do it, and he's had so many mistakes. And we didn't even talk about him getting bailed out by replay against the Titans, where he went for the ball when it was a dead ball. So it's just dumb decision, and that's been the big issue, Jordan. You and I have talked about it, and I know we want to talk about the positives, and we want, so it is positive. But
it is.
The big issue has been this first month, the team just looked unprepared, unfocused, and to me, it was almost like they thought that they had already arrived and they could just kind of figure stuff out as they went. Yes. Which you might be able to say you can get away with Tua, but once he got hurt, you can't do that.
Yeah, and I think that the Fire McDaniel conversation, and I wasn't really on last week, but the Fire McDaniel conversation to me was overblown. I think the conversation was McDaniel needs to be a lot better.
Yes,
and
there was a lot of frustration.
McDaniel needs to take accountability.
Yes, my thing was, and you and I talked about it after Seattle, and I talked with Kevin on Thursday. My thing, and we can talk about the deficiencies in the roster. We know it's been said to death. A lot of the reasons we were losing, to me, were not talent related.
Correct.
It was just an unprepared, unmotivated, lack of fundamentals. So that's where I'm like, okay, we gotta shift blame to the team, to the coaches. And I did see, like I said, I wanted to see McDaniel show growth, and he simplified stuff. And we did, as ugly as the game was today, we were by far the much better team as the game went on.
We won today because we were a lot better than them from a talent perspective. Not because we were more disciplined, which we were a little bit, but more so just because we had better players. And we almost blew it at the end twice.
Yes. The one thing I will say, and we can talk about the defense. Again, the issue with defense, I like the scheme. I think they're playing hard. They got to eliminate the big play.
Yes.
Safety is officially an issue. Javon Holland has been awful this year. Jordan Poyer has been worse, but Poyer didn't play. Javon Holland and Marcus May, and I thought May was fine. They both missed tackles on the Patriots touchdown. When Holland got hurt, we almost gave up a touchdown. Basically got taken away because of a technicality. That's where the soft spot is. The safeties just aren't getting their zone reads right. When we drop into zone, there's a soft spot there. They're getting caught flat-footed, and that's where most of our issues are coming.
I would be surprised if that's not a major emphasis of the defense coming out of the bye.
Yes.
And I think that, look, it's the NFL, and you look, and how many teams right now? You got 1, 2, 3. There's going to be 4 after one of these games. 5. There are 7 or 8 teams that are 2-3.
Yes.
And there are a whole lot more if you want to count the teams that are 3-2. About half the league is 3-2 or 2-3. And we have had just about the worst start to a season that we could possibly have. The worst. The absolute worst.
Nowhere to go but up.
So I would be surprised if it stays this bad the rest of the way. And I can only see us improving over the course of the next couple of weeks. And especially once Tua comes back, progressing into a team. Look, we shot ourselves in the foot, but we're not out of the race. Buffalo's 3-2. And Josh Allen
got a concussion.
And I don't want to talk about that whole situation.
No. I said he might. So you don't know what happens. We're not out of it. We have the same record as the Jets. So at the end of the day, we're basically one game behind the Bills. So as bad as this was, we've somewhat recovered. And hopefully we're starting to get healthy. Yes, we lost 2 more players today for injuries, but you got OBJ back. Tua's coming back. I think Jalen Wright should be the number 1 back going forward.
I saw something interesting today after the game in one of the groups that we're in. I don't know if you saw it. Somebody talking about giving Jalen Wright more snaps and dependent on Achane's health, the possibility of moving Mostert. And that's not something that would necessarily surprise me if it happened, especially with a team like San Fran with McCaffrey's injuries. I could see us going with the Jalen Wright, Achane, Jeff Wilson, Chris Brooks backfield.
Well, we can't have Brooks because we did an injury settlement with him.
Okay, so
yeah,
the 3 of them and whoever else we want to bring off the street to fill that role, but it would mostly be a Wright, Achane backfield. I don't know if I love the idea, but it's not something that, dependent on how the next couple weeks go, would necessarily surprise me.
I think it depends on how we go out of the bye. I think we come out. I think we're keeping the group together unless the bottom falls out again. But
now, do you think that there's a possibility that if we win a couple games here, we add somebody? Because I could see us going after a receiver.
I could see it. I think they still want to try and get, because River Craycraft's coming back soon too. I think you want to see them. River isn't a game breaker, but
he's going to be the OBJ replacement. So this OBJ experience isn't lasting too long, I don't think.
No. River Craycraft, the one thing I will say is he is going to be a better blocker than Braxton Berrios.
For sure. 100%.
So
I like Craycraft.
Yeah.
He's a good receiver 4, receiver 5.
I think, again, this is also some hopefulness. You think with the bye, Malik Washington and OBJ get integrated too as well. I could see it. I think the question becomes, would they actually add what we need, which is size? Because I don't know if they will or not. But it's something to discuss. I think it's still a little too early. I would love to see us go after a tight end because we're still Jonnu looked better to the point where today I was kind of like, hey, you get that guy involved, it's probably going to do better. Our offense is probably, even if we're struggling until Tua gets back, you're going to see a more efficient offense.
For sure.
But I think you do need to add some explosiveness there. Honestly, I think safety and linebacker is possible because I think David Long came out again in the second half because I saw a lot more Walker at linebacker the second half.
Uh-huh.
But for linebacker, I will say that shout out Jordan Brooks has been great for
Fantastic.
us. So that was a low-key, really good signing, especially because I don't think David Long's been that good this year. Now, admittedly, he's also dealt with injuries, but Brooks has been so good. Our defensive line, I think we need to get another nose tackle. I think Benito Jones is by far the worst in our rotation, but I think everybody else is playing well defensively except for the safeties. So
yeah, I would like to see another big guy added in there. Brett, if you had to give a game ball today, an offensive and a defensive game ball, who do you give it to?
Offense, Jalen Wright. I don't think you can give it to anybody else just because when we needed a run. Well, I'm going to say that, but also not only was he running hard, I will give a shout out to the offensive line because if you didn't notice, even with Mostert, anytime someone got stopped and they kept moving their feet, the offensive line was pushing the running backs. So I'll give them a shout out, but I think it has to go to Jalen Wright. Defensively, Sealer had a good game. He had 3 hits. I think I saw a sack. I will – you know what? After talking, I will say Jordan Brooks because I think he had a couple big plays in space that in past weeks we were not making. So I think he absolutely had some plays that will go under the radar that kept the game close when we were struggling in the first half.
Yeah, I had Wright and Sealer written down. You can't go wrong there. Sealer brought the intensity early, and he's been such a great not replacement to Christian Wilkins, but kind of stepping up into that leadership role that was lost by Wilkins in the offseason. We definitely miss Wilkins, but we miss him a little bit less because of the play of Sealer.
Yeah, no, Sealer's been great. I think Calais Campbell, if I didn't already know he was 38 years old, I wouldn't have guessed. He still looks like a force out there. Yeah, no, not much to say. The Patriots are not a good team, so
no, they're not.
There's some frustration there that the game was close. But again, and this is probably me being a bit optimistic, I think some of the struggles with Huntley right now is just that he's got 2 weeks with the team.
Yeah.
So I think
look, the biggest thing I'll say about him is some of the drastic running one way, throwing across the other way. Like don't take chances, man. If it's not there, run. Like I would rather see him instead of having how many passing attempts he had today. What was the number?
18.
It was 30. He had 31 passing attempts.
Oh wow.
18 for 31. I would rather that be 23 and him run 8 more times. I would rather that be 20 and him run 11 more times. Like I mean, I would.
There were a couple times he kind of got stuck in. There were a couple times he kind of got stuck in between thoughts, and I think that hurt. Just do that. You got to realize he's not going to have the timing. He's just not the. He's not the timing quarterback that half the timing quarterback Tua is, if we're being honest. So he missed some plays just because he just doesn't have the timing. But
absolutely.
But I think they simplified things a lot, and I think you can see I do like that he's willing to take shots. Where it's like with Skyler. Skyler was terrified to do anything against Seattle. Where even if Huntley has some really bad throws, I like that he's willing to say, hey, I got guys out there who can make plays.
For sure.
So.
For sure. And then, I mean, I guess the last thing to talk about, and we're going to come on again during the bye week, so it's not something we need to get deep into. But what is the biggest thing, the number one thing in your mind that we need to change between now and the time we take the field in Indy?
Honestly, we just have to stay committed to the run game. If we, I said this before the season, Jordan, and I will keep saying this. I don't care who the quarterback is. I honestly believe that we are a good enough running team that until Tua is back, we should be 500, if not better. So I think we got to stay committed to the running game. Defensively, it's just eliminate the big play. Like, you just have to be sound. Defense, they've given up one big touchdown every game this year, and it's just been because someone's been out of position. So
yeah, for sure. For me, it's a little bit different than something on the field, which it ends up being on the field. But they need to find ways to coach discipline in practice. They need to be much stricter on snap infractions. They need to be much stricter on any sort of just mental lapse in the game and go over. You have 2 weeks to go over every single situation you could possibly see and just fine tune those skills and get yourself to a place where you're playing. If we just play smart football, we're talented enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad football being played right now.
Oh, yeah.
We're one of the more talented teams. And if we just cut down on the bullshit mistakes, the dumb mistakes, we're going to see this team really move up in the standings over the second half of the season.
Yep, I was going to point that out. So just in our division, Bills are 3-2, Jets and us are 2-3, Patriots are 1-4, Chiefs are undefeated. Everybody else in their division is 2-2.
Brett, this is easy. Let's look at it like this. There's a tier of 5 teams right now that are playing well in the AFC. It's Kansas City, Houston, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Baltimore. Those teams are in their own tier. We're not in that tier right now.
And I wouldn't even say the Steelers. The Steelers are getting lucky. They have a great defense.
They're just in that tier based on record, and they're winning football games. Yeah. This isn't a league where teams are winning right now. But do you think any of the following teams are actually better than us? The Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Jets, the Colts, the Titans, the Browns, the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Bengals.
Bengals are the only team talent-wise, I think.
And they're in last place.
And they're in last place. But I would say the Bengals
1-4 in last place.
Yeah, and I think the Bengals are poor. I think the Bengals are just as, if not more, poorly coached than we are. Same with the Browns, honestly. The Browns have a lot of talent.
We've been saying Zach Taylor is the worst coach in football for a long time.
Yes, so there is that. Now, granted, I gotta say, we have not been well coached this year, but I think, and shout out to Mr. S, he has said it on Twitter, McDaniels earned the right to try and fix it. It's been frustrating, but I do think he is a better coach than some of these other coaches.
For sure. I don't think there's any doubt that McDaniel should come into the season next year as the head coach of the Dolphins.
Yes.
Now,
things don't get better. Chris Grier might be gone.
Yes. I think McDaniel should be able to pick his GM. Now, if McDaniel picks Grier, give him Grier. Give McDaniel an option. And McDaniel and whoever that guy is get the next 2 seasons and coincide McDaniel with the out into his contract. So you either start over completely with quarterback, coach, GM, or Tua, McDaniel, and McDaniel's chosen GM will be what carries you through 2026. But I don't know if you give them the next 2 years to try to figure this out. I think that you succeed.
Nope, I agree. Listen, just got to remind people, as frustrating as it is, we're still in it, and we are not the only team that's playing poorly.
For sure. For sure.
But we're about a half hour. I think this is this was fun to do an instant reaction, especially because we won, and that game probably made us both want to drink a little. But
I'd say so.
But I think this is a good way to start our bye week and kind of just like the team and everybody just kind of recalibrate.
Yeah, for 2 weeks we're winners, Brett.
All right. So, everybody, peace out. We'll be back later this week. Probably dive into the draft a little bit.
Yep. Bye, guys.
See ya.